Hi there, my name is Keith Burgun. I'm working on a new game now called Business Demon Tactics. It's a turn-based tactical war game in the vein of Advance Wars, XCOM, or Final Fantasy Tactics that takes place in my original Gem Wizards universe. This is a new video series that will explain some aspect of game design theory, and then run through how I'm applying that theory in the development of Business Demon Tactics. I have a few episodes where I'll talk a bit about the lore and the Gem Wizards universe itself, which I'm pretty excited about. Earlier this year, I successfully kickstarted Dragon Bridge, a two-player card game, which was the first game in that universe, and I'll have an episode or two on that as well. So today we're going to talk about what is Business Demon Tactics, and why am I making it. Business Demon Tactics is a turn-based tactical squad war game. I began development on it a few months ago, and I've already got gameplay fully implemented, although there's still a ton of polish, bug fixing, balancing, and playtesting left to do, as well as implementing most of the content. The game takes place over about 10 missions. In these missions, you move your units around a randomly generated battlefield, using abilities, finding new units, winning and losing missions, and ultimately, hopefully, ending up with more land or profit than you started with. For me, the question of why am I making this thing is pretty important. For one thing, I think my background in turn-based tactics games, both in terms of producing them and in terms of playing them, means that I will be able to make an exceptionally good tactics game. I also feel like I've identified a few problems with the genre, and I have some solutions in mind to those. I recently wrote an article over at keithburgun.net that goes into detail on some of those, so please do check that out. But the short version of it is, many squad-based tactics games are either too limited in terms of what the player is able to tactically do. The size of maps tends to either be too small or progressively get too large, and many of them give too much of an advantage to simply being the first to attack, causing some degenerate, move right up to their threat area type of gameplay. Beyond that, though, I have a general project of wanting to create the single-player competitive strategy game. This is something I've been pursuing throughout all of my digital games, most obviously with Oro and its single-player ELO system. Above all else, I want this game to feel very much like a single-player sport, something that is about the pursuit of mastery of a system, but a creative sort of mastery where you're playing in a way that only you would play. I think that a squad tactics game is maybe the best way that I can think of to achieve this goal, and hopefully the vision will become more and more clear over the following videos. In this game, there will be 7 playable factions, but right now there's just one faction, the Business Demons. Unlike all the other factions, they lack a cavalry unit, so they have to make up for that in a few other ways. One of those ways is that they have a pretty fast-moving archer unit, which is actually more like a skirmisher, but their biggest asset is the bulldozer, which is their special unit. The bulldozer, while not moving very fast itself, creates roads everywhere that it moves. In addition to this, it has a bulldoze ability, which moves it instantly 2 tiles in a direction, creating roads along the way. So the abilities in this game are far from finished, but bulldoze is a really fantastic ability because of the many different ways that it can be used. Bulldoze can be used to create roads, of course, which is pretty important, especially for catapults or other wheel-based units. Catapults are very strong, but sort of need roads to move around freely, so making roads itself is a very powerful thing. It can even pave its way through mountains. You can also use bulldoze to push enemy units into a worse position or get them away from a vulnerable unit. You can also use bulldoze to give one of your own units a boost, or just use it to get the bulldozer itself out of harm's way. My goal is to make it that every unit in the game has at least one ability that has this many kinds of uses. That will be very hard, but that's what I'm shooting for. As I mentioned, the game takes place in a meta game where you'll play about 10 missions. Here's a neat thing about Business Demon Tactics. You'll lose roughly half of these missions, and a lot of the time it'll be about smartly managing the missions that you surrender on. Each mission you're gaining and losing profit, or in ranked mode, we call it territory, basically making up a big war. By the end of the 10 missions, if you have more than the 50% that you started with, it's a win, and if not, it's a loss. There's something a bit like permadeath for units in this game, although it's a lot more complex than the classic just if the unit dies on the battlefield, it's gone for good. It's possible to win back previously killed units later on, and some units who are killed will survive and show up in the next mission. Anyway, that about wraps up what I wanted to talk about today. Some topics that I want to talk about going forward in this video series are fog of war in tactical war games, what's important in map generation, the best approach to asymmetry, using output randomness well. I'd like to do an episode on Dragon Bridge, my card game, And I'd love to do a few episodes about the Gem Wizards universe, which I think is really special and quirky and strange, and provides a good canvas on which to make hopefully numerous weird, interesting games. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, and if you think what I'm doing is valuable, consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.